Hello. I can't get myself angled right. Okay. This is TE 804, and I'm going through and I love these maps, cultural maps. These are wonderful. I've only gone through about 6 or 8 of them. Takes a little while, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to give you for assignment. I'll put that up tomorrow. But what I'm really interested in is the concept of multicultural and multiculturalism. I think I want to bring this up because it's very political. You say multiculturalism and people say, oh, so you're not going to talk about America, you're going to talk about something else. Well, what's kind of curious is that multiculturalism, I almost say, don't even bring the word up. Because if you bring up the word multiculturalism, people think you're some kind of political operative or some raging liberal or someone who's going to get angry about multiculturalism and talk about how it's destroying our country. When I hear multiculturalism, I actually would rather probably hear them just say, let's talk about culture. The word culture historically has antagonized people at times. I know there was a famous quote, and I know it was attributed to Heinrich Himmler, who was the evil SS guy under Adolf Hitler. And he had a quote, he said, every time I hear the word culture, I reach for a gun. In other words, I've been watching a few things on the Nazis on television and everything from World War II. I'd recently been to West Virginia, had the opportunity to visit the Holocaust Museum there. Now, there's a bigger one in Washington, but I'm talking about the one in West Virginia. It was built on the idea of experiencing things. So it's really cool because you go through there and you actually have to crawl around in hiding places. It gives you the idea of how crazy it would be to hide from the Nazis. And the particular one wasn't Anne Frank, but it was another one where people literally would have an opening underneath a stove and you would crawl down there and then you'd be able to have your own little living room and you could live down there and you had to live like that for years at a time, only come out at night. But that's what the people had to do. They had to hide their culture, had to hide who they were, because the Nazis wanted to have only one culture, one way of seeing everything. And so they didn't like the term multicultural. They saw that as a defect and used the idea of plague and infection and everything. We must get rid of all those who are unclean. And basically destroyed civilization as well as themselves. So when we talk about multicultural, I don't think you should draw attention to it and make a big deal about the word itself. Talk about what you find or what students will find in the future regarding the world they live in. I know when I was reading Stephanie Siss's entry, that she talked in Roger out in western Nebraska. You were talking about amazing varieties I didn't realize. Stephanie, I think, was mentioning the Czech and French and I think German, maybe Irish out in northwestern Kansas, and then Atwood, Kansas. And then Roger was mentioning and I know there are Japanese beet farmers out there, but he's mentioned the Hispanic, Mexican groups that were out in western Nebraska, worked out there, been out there for 100 years. People forget Colorado is Colorado. It was explored by Coronado and the claims were made, and that was part of Mexico up into the Mexican War, 1846. So in effect, we start out being multicultural. There's nothing like, oh, this is just this, This is a group of people that crushed these berries and they made a flour with them and they made something. I remember seeing on it was called the Sami culture, the people that kept the reindeer up in Finland. and Sammy, Sami, saw it on a late night show called Under the Sun. It's kind of a health channel, eating healthy and organic and stuff. Anyhow, what was so interesting is that you couldn't grab one thing without pulling on it and pulling on something else. There wasn't such a thing as a pure culture. It's the American culture. I mean, the American culture is a mixture of dozens of other things and is constantly changing. Like the beginning when the Earth was getting hit by comets and asteroids and bringing in water and probably life forms and all kinds of cool things like that. You can't just say, oh, the Earth's always been here and it doesn't owe anything to the universe. It is part of the universe, okay? Just like we are too. We're part of all the cultures. And we don't know where it's going to go, I gave the example, my oldest son married a girl from Russia. I went to school at UNL, graduated high school at UNL. Her dad's a physics professor over there, does a lot of major research in quantum physics. And they're Russians, and so they're going to be going off to Russia to visit the old folks here, end of the month. And then my daughter's dating a kid that's in the Army now, real serious, and he's just started basic training down in Fort Benning. And I think he's part Mexican and part Guatemalan. Okay? And my other son's girlfriend, I think she's Italian. But the point is, this idea that there's something American and we're going to keep American is just going to be changing all the time. So we spend a lot of time arguing about multicultural like there is some pure culture. There never has been, I think once you step outside your little comfort zone, everything changes, and cultures are like that. So dispense with the multicultural, I don't know the term. When I read this and you talk about, well, I want to get books and things for my elementary kids or my early childhood kids, or I'm really excited. I live in a small town. I want to get new curriculum. I'm wonderful. I've got lots of stuff for you. I've got lots of children's books back here. I've got little flags. I've got a flagpole behind me. Actually, I'm using that. I've been running. I dry my shirt on it. But I actually have flags for those things, and they're in the trunk of my car. And I love to collect flags because they're colorful and exciting, etc. I like all kinds of books from all different cultures, from the past and the present, and who knows where the future is going to take us. So when I look at this and I say multicultural, Nebraska's got 100 cultures in it. It's got German, it's got Czech, it's got Swedish, it's got Norwegian, it's got Welsh, England, Russians, obviously, Hispanics. Way back, there were Mexicans here a long time ago, or Hispanics a long time ago. Now there's some more coming in. Now we have Somali tribesmen living in Lexington. So what does all this mean? It means that multicultural just is what it is. Okay, I hate that term. It is what it is, That's the worst cliche of all. I said, well, I guess you could say that about anything. It doesn't mean anything. But the fact is that multiculturalism is the state of things. It's not something you go and find. So you explore, and I like these culture maps because you get to use them to explore the cultures of your students and also to explore your own, because you can see some of the things that I know Roger said some really interesting things. I haven't got to Mr. Moeller's yet, but he has he's got in here where Dick Van Dyke lives and stuff. He's got a beautiful culture map of Arizona. I love this thing. I've read his part yet, but it's got the old mine town, Sunset Point, Tonto Natural Bridge. I didn't know there was one named that. Waputki National Monument. I don't know what that is. I didn't say it right. Now, this is kind of colorful, I'll admit. Mine's not very artistic, but let's face it, let's don't worry about how artistic we are. I think I'm kind of a decent poet myself, and so I'm a little proud of that. So, but I wouldn't put my poems up and have you look at it and say, well, that's not much. So these are wonderful. I just love it. And I love this class because I think we have so much we can exchange and share in here. Okay, I need to shut up because if I get this on YouTube and I talk too much, then it's too much. But I'm really excited, and I do want to make sure that I do. There's 32 people in here, so it's kind of crowded. And you know what that means? I probably won't be able to give you as much homework as I thought I was going to give you. I know you're really upset about it. But that's something that I'm really thrilled about. And I wanted to get this podcast or this video out to you tonight because I wanted you, I didn't draw a map. But if I drew a map, it would look like worse than any of these, I can assure you. I mean, I was the kind of kid that when I drew a pig, when I was a kid and I drew a pig and a horse and a dog, it all looked like they all evolved the same creature. So pretty sad. I could draw trees. For some reason, I loved that. And I could draw a tree. I just couldn't put anything on it. It had to be bare branch. Okay, well, that's a little bit about me. You can see a lot of books in here. And I collect books. And I got books on everything. I got books because of the cover. I got books because of the topic. I have books on history, Greek and Roman. I've got a set of books autographed by Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall, the woman who lived with a chimpanzee. She's very famous, female scientist. I mean, famous scientist, period. She's certainly one of the most beloved people in the world in terms of taking care of animals, and especially primates, but everything. I met her a couple of times, and I just admire her greatly, and I'm so excited to have all these books. I plan to give them to grandchildren someday. Hope they don't tear them up. It's always good to have books around. I'm a believer in that. When it comes to multicultural, you have all kinds of materials that are multicultural. In the next room, I've got some games. One from Peru, one from Nepal, and I'm actually going to put them out here and show them a little bit to you so you can see them. Because the word multicultural, you cannot read a book, even though I've got the Banks book. And yes, we're gonna talk about it, so you'll need it. But I'm not going to be so much into theory, but into application. The map is huge for me because it gives a starting point. And everybody starts out as a child with a map, no matter how old they are, etc. They can draw a map, and it's an experience to really look back on what holds your little community together. Okay, that's enough for now because I don't want to make this too long. I'm going to be sending this to you just so you, and I'm going to put the homework or stuff we're going to be working on, which will really be fun stuff, tomorrow. I'll put it up by tomorrow evening, okay? And I encourage you to go through, even though I'm not going to ask you to read everybody, go through and click and look at everybody's map. Just take a quick read through there because it's quite entertaining.